When you think of Krishna, what comes to mind? Probably a flute, right? A god surrounded by love, music. But what if I told you that's only half the picture? Today, we're going to pull back the curtain and meet a very different Krishna. We're talking about a warrior of almost unbelievable power. Let's explore the god of war who's been hiding behind the god of love.
So, on one hand, you've got the Krishna we all know and love, the divine lover, the musician, the gentle guide we see in so many stories. But then, you look at the other side, and it's like a different being entirely, a terrifying, absolutely unstoppable force of nature on the battlefield. And we're not just talking about him playing a different role, you know? This is a fundamental shift in who he is.
So, the big question, the one that's probably on your mind right now, is how? How can both of these identities possibly exist in the same person? Well, to figure that out, we've got to dive into one of his most brutal and honestly one of his most overlooked battles.
All right, so to really get a handle on the warrior, we first need to start with the image we all know, the one that's so beloved everywhere, the Krishna that we picture far, far away from any battlefield.
Yeah, this is the guy, the playful butter thief from his childhood stories, the enchanting flute player, Radha's divine lover, of course, and that wise, compassionate friend to Arjuna right before the Great War. This is the Krishna of peace, of love. But like I said, this is only half the story.
You know, every great hero needs a truly great villain, right? And in this story, Krishna doesn't just face one, he faces two, a pair of brothers, Hamsa and Dimbhaka, who, through some serious, intense penance, had basically made themselves invincible. Almost.
Get this. They got 3 incredible boons directly from Shiva. First off, only a human could kill them. Just think about that. That takes most divine beings right off the board. Second, they were given this unbreakable divine armor. And third, as if that wasn't enough, they had 2 of Shiva's own demonic spirits fighting alongside them. This wasn't just a threat, it was a total strategic nightmare.
Okay, to really grasp the scale of what's about to go down, we need to talk about the weapons. We're not talking swords and spears here. We're talking about divyastras. These are celestial weapons, right? You summon them with mantras, and each one has the power of a hurricane or an earthquake, or honestly, something much, much worse.
And this is where the problem really hits you. That armor I mentioned, it could just nullify some of the most destructive divyastras that exist. I mean, to put this in perspective for you, you've probably heard of the Brahmastra, a weapon that could literally end the world. Well, these guys' armor could block the Brahmashira Astra, which is 4 times stronger. They weren't just warriors, they were walking, talking fortresses.
So Krishna and the Yadava clan, they refuse to bow down and pay tribute to these brothers. And that means war. They all meet at a place called Pushkara, and the battle that's about to unfold, well, it's the stuff of legends.
As soon as the fighting starts, the biggest champions on each side immediately find each other. And just look at these matchups. You've got Satyaki squaring off against Dimbhaka. Then there's Krishna's absolute powerhouse of a brother, Balarama, who goes right for Hamsa. And Krishna himself? He's facing this monstrous giant called Vichikra.
And Satyaki, who's known as one of the greatest archers of his time, just puts on an absolute clinic. His speed is, well, it's blinding. He's shattering hundreds of Dimbhaka's bows, breaking them the very instant he tries to draw an arrow. It's just unbelievable.
Meanwhile, you've got Balarama. He's not messing around with fancy moves. He is all rage and raw strength. He literally leaps from his own chariot, mace in hand, and just single-handedly demolishes Hamsa's entire chariot. I'm talking horses, wheels, the whole thing, just smashed to pieces.
But it's in Krishna's fight that everything changes. This is where we see that gentle god just vanish. And what replaces him is something else entirely. Something terrifying.
The giant, Vichikra, he actually lands a solid hit, a really powerful blow. And for a second, it's just shocking. Krishna, a god, stumbles and spits blood. But instead of weakening him, it's like a switch flips. It awakens something deep inside. You can almost see it in his eyes. That playful smile is just gone, and all that's left is this cold, hard resolve.
So the giant grabs this huge boulder and hurls it at him, and Krishna, in this just mind-blowing display of strength, catches it in midair. He leaps from his chariot and smashes it right back into the giant, basically using his enemy's own power against him. He is done playing games. Krishna draws his divine bow, the Sharnga, and unleashes the Agni Astra, the divine weapon of fire. Imagine a pillar of pure, divine flame just erupting and engulfing the giant, incinerating him right where he stands. And just like that, the first major threat is gone.
Okay, so next up are those two demonic spirits from Shiva. They charge right at him. And Krishna doesn't even bother with a weapon. He just physically grabs them, spins them around like a top, and then with this just insane strength, he hurls them all the way back to their home on Mount Kailasa. He literally throws them home.
So, with the giant and the demons out of the way, Krishna turns his full, undivided attention to the main event, Hamsa. And what comes next is nothing short of a cataclysmic showdown, fought with the most powerful weapons in the entire universe.
But before they clash, Krishna makes his purpose crystal clear. He roars his core belief across the whole battlefield. This isn't about pride, it's not about conquest. For this version of Krishna, the warrior, it's all about one thing: divine justice for anyone who has taken refuge in him.
So Krishna unleashes the Brahmashira Astra. Again, this is a weapon that can destroy worlds. It flies across the battlefield, it strikes Hamsa's divine armor, and it does nothing. It just dissolves. Poof. Gone. One of the ultimate offensive weapons in existence has completely failed. All right, so conventional super weapons are out. Krishna has to pull out his trump card. He summons his personal ultimate weapon, one that's basically an extension of his very soul as Vishnu. He calls forth the Vaishnavastra. And this weapon is said to be second in power only to the supreme weapon of Shiva himself, the Pashupatastra. This is the big one.
The second Hamsa sees this weapon starting to form, a weapon whose power is just absolute. He completely panics. He knows that fancy armor isn't going to do a thing. In pure, abject terror, he ditches his chariot and dives into the deep Yamuna River, just trying to hide.
But there's no escape. Not from this. Krishna dismisses the Astra, he puts down his bow, and he just runs. With this incredible speed, he chases Hamsa on foot, leaps into the same dark river and ends the fight, not with some flashy divine weapon, but by brutally, physically overpowering and killing him down in the dark depths of the water.
And right there, in that moment, the two sides of Krishna, the lover and the destroyer, they finally become one complete picture.
So you have the flute, right? An instrument of creation, of love, of pure joy. And then you have the Sharnga, his divine bow, an instrument of judgment, of destruction. To really truly understand Krishna, you have to get that he's the master of both.
And all of this leaves us with a pretty challenging question, doesn't it? We've just seen that righteousness isn't always soft and gentle. That sometimes, to protect the innocent, it has to become this terrifying, unstoppable force. So, how does this picture of a divine warrior, who is, let's be honest, an executioner in the name of good, how does that change what we think justice really requires?